Welcome to the Abundance Code, the podcast where we delve into the secrets of unlocking abundance in mind, money, and meaning. I'm your host, Jason Stanley.
But it's absolutely necessary. It's necessary to be able to do those activities, make those tough choices in order to be able to keep everything moving forward and keeping the organization working. Welcome back to the Abundance Code, where we discuss mind, money, and meaning. All right, this time I thought we'd talk through what it's like, kind of a day in the life of, I had a request for this, a day in the life of a CEO. And, I've kind of hinted at it. We talked about it a little bit. So let me tell you a little bit about what I do first and foremost. So, I co-founded a financial firm. We currently have about 29 locations across 8 states. We have quite a few teams that are affiliated with us. We have some books of businesses that we own outright. I also manage a book of clients as well as a financial advisor. And then we have, outside of that, I have some real estate holdings, those kinds of things, and some other little side businesses that I run. So anyway, I thought I'd share what it looks like, what my life is like kind of on a daily basis, what I do day in and day out, what it's like to run a little larger organization, wear a couple different types of hats, and, be able to manage all of these things, and I would tell you, again, if you guys recall, I wrote a goal in 2005. I think I shared this with you guys. I wrote this goal. I was in Camp Taji, Iraq. I was in the Army at the time. So I was in a combat zone, that I said that at some point in time I wanted to have or own a financial firm and start one, right? So I wanted to start and own a financial firm. And I spent a lot of time early on building a book of clients, being a financial advisor, and building my practice. And then I met my business partner during my time at the first firm that I was associated with. And we went through some training together, that kind of stuff. And then he left and I left separate times, but we reconnected in a different form than what we were at before. And we each had our own practices. We each had our own businesses. And we said, hey, you know what? We have a lot of similar goals, a lot of similar desires. Let's join forces. Let's go build this thing together. And I don't think either one of us ever imagined that it would take off in the way that it did. And so there was a lot of learning, learning on the fly, a lot of trial and error on things. And so we launched at the end of 2019. I think November of 2019 we brought on our first affiliated office, and since then have grown out to the 29 locations across 8 states. We've got a decent amount of assets and all that stuff. And what that takes to run is actually quite demanding. So a typical day for me, I get up, I usually, start my day. I usually read through what's happening in the markets for the day. I'm usually, reading the news, and then I put my phone down, I go have coffee and start to get mentally prepped for my day. I have a couple different people that manage my schedule for me. And so I'll usually go through my calendar, what I've got going for the day. And it's a combination, it's typically a combination of things for the overall firm. So the management and running of the firm that I have to, work on with my business partner, work on with our other team members, and then the stuff that we do for clients. And so again, wearing multiple hats and being able to shift gears throughout the day. A lot of my time is on the phone. I'm on the phone, I would say 95% of my day. I am on a phone call, talking through something, looking at something, negotiating a deal, trying to recruit people to join us, or dealing with our current clients. And so a lot of time on the phone. It's not what you would expect. A lot of people, I think, have this image of, sitting in a boardroom with all these people sitting around and, hashing out these ideas and stuff like that. A lot of what I do is on phone. It's on Zoom meetings, and that kind of stuff. And there's never really a time that you're done. And throughout the day, I get peppered with a lot of things that aren't on my schedule, right? So there's issues that pop up, there's concerns that pop up that we have to deal with, and we have to be able to deal with those fairly quickly. But we have a great team, and so that team helps with all aspects of running this firm. They help with the planning, they help with the structure, they help with the processes that we use. They help with the scheduling and all of that stuff. And so that helps out a lot. I have like I said, I have a couple different people. I have 3 different people really that manage my schedule. So I don't go out and schedule a lot of stuff on my own because usually they've already got my days filled in a certain manner. I have my time, I time block my schedule so that I have personal time throughout the day that I can kind of decompress and, focus on whatever I want to focus on for that time being, or for that time period rather. But, I have, again, my days are usually pretty full. And even the days that aren't really all that full with meetings become, usually the days that I find myself the busiest, because those are the days that I'm able to kind of pick up little things that have been out there hanging and run with them and talk through those with different team members that we have. So we have meetings on where we're taking the organization, what our goals are for the organization. We're focused on those things, what we want the culture of the organization to be like, and then we have meetings on personnel, right? So we have a decent number of employees, and there's times that not all of them, do what they're supposed to do. So we have to meet on personnel issues. We have to talk through how we're going to handle certain situations. We have affiliated teams and advisors. If they're having issues, we have to be able to field those issues, be able to deal with that. And so, not one day is ever the same for me. And never dealing with the same thing. But I would say in order to run a larger organization, you have to be able to shift gears very quickly. You have to be able to think through and come up with solutions on things in a very short order to be able to take care of people. And then you also have to be able to depend on your team. And so we have a very, very good team, and I've talked about them before in this podcast. I've talked about my business partners and my business partner and the people that make up our management team here with the firm. So again, they help out tremendously with everything that we have going. But there's really not an aspect. I would tell you that if your goal is to run a larger organization, I think there's some fallacies that are out there that, if you're running the company, you're not involved in the day-to-day and all that stuff. There's not an aspect of the business that I'm not involved in. Right. I want to have my finger on the pulse of everything that's happening. I can get briefed back by the team members that are taking care of that. So, we have, a team member that heads up whenever an advisor joins us from another firm. She heads up that process of helping them get their clients onboarded, helping them move their clients over and that kind of stuff. But I'm very much involved in what's going on. While I'm not in the forefront of that, I know what's happening. I know where we're at with each person. I know how it's, where the struggles are, where the holdups are on certain things, where they need help with, and that kind of stuff. And so sometimes I interject on that. Here recently, I got an issue where, we're dealing with an employee issue. And so I have to interject on that. I have to, get myself involved in that as well. running a company, being a co-founder or CEO, right? So I'm a co-CEO, co-founder of this firm. I would tell you, you have to be able to make hard decisions, right? And sometimes you really care about people and you have to give them bad news. And that's not a fun thing to do, because at the end of the day, we have to be able to run things. We have to be able to run it efficiently. So, when it's always nice to be able to hire somebody. It's hard to be able to let somebody go. It's not a fun thing to go through because some people are better at it than others. I will tell you, I care about people and I really try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. And so if I had to say there's a piece of the business I don't care for that much, it's that aspect. But it's absolutely necessary. It's necessary to be able to do those activities, make those tough choices in order to be able to keep everything moving forward and keeping the organization working and working effectively. Because at the end of the day, if you lose sight of that, if you don't have a good working organization, you don't have good processes, right? Then you start to fall apart. So processes is the other side of things, right? You have to have processes by which you're measuring yourself against. You have to have processes by which you're measuring your team against. And you have to have very clearly defined roles, right? Who is responsible for each thing? And sometimes I'll tell you quite frankly, that was a lesson that we kind of had to put together or learned on the fly because we brought people in to help us run this, and it was growing really quickly. But we didn't have really clearly defined roles. People wore a lot of different hats, and over time we started narrowing those things down and saying, hey, your responsibility is this, your responsibility is that. And we're working even more right now trying to define those down even more granular so that people know exactly what they're responsible for. They know exactly what they're expected to do on a daily basis. It's not, it's not as glamorous, I think, as what people think it would be. Running a large organization, it's not, I guess maybe if you were the CEO of Apple, maybe it gets glamorous. I'm not even sure that that's all that glamorous. I think there's so many facets of a business and so many things that you have to be able to oversee, manage, think through. There's so many people that you have to be able to trust to do certain things that it takes a lot. It takes a lot out of you. It can be, at the end of the day, there's a lot of days I'll go home and I'll sit down on the couch, and kind of my way of decompressing is not to turn on the TV, but I'll sit there and read on my phone or whatever. And my wife knows whenever I'm in that state and she sees me like that to just give me a little bit of time because I got to decompress. I literally spend so much time talking throughout the day on the phone that sometimes I'm out of stuff to say by the end of the day. And, so I think, recognizing that has been good, that she knows when I'm in that place and that I just need that moment just to kind of decompress before I can feed into them. There's a lot of sacrifice that goes into running an organization, especially one that you start. And you have to determine what you're willing to sacrifice. It does take away from family. It does take away from being able to go to kids' things and stuff like that. And so you have to kind of determine if that's important to you, and be willing to sacrifice those things if you really want to build something large. It sounds good on paper and everybody thinks that it creates an easy life. And I would tell you that it does not. It actually complicates life a lot. But again, I love what I do. I enjoy this. I enjoy the process of business. I love every aspect about what I do. So don't get me wrong when I say that, there's times that it's tiring or that takes sacrifice. To me, it's worth the cost. But as I'm talking to you guys and you think through how you want your life to be and things that you're wanting to accomplish, you need to ask yourself, what are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to not do if you really want to build something and you want to build something worthwhile? There's people talk about a work-life balance. I will tell you that I have not met any CEOs. I've met CEOs that run Fortune 500 companies. I have a good friend of mine that's a CEO for hire. I run this organization with my business partner. I will tell you that work-life balance is somewhat of a farce for people who want to run larger companies and want to run larger organizations. There is not a work-life balance, right? It is work, and then you get to do life when you get some time to do it. And even then, when I'm on a vacation, I'm typically working, because I still have to be able to run all of this stuff even whenever I'm out. Now, I have a great team. They do try to protect my time whenever I do take vacation. I would say in the past 2 years was the first time in a long time that I have been able to step away and not have to be involved in day-to-day activities of the business. But I still keep my ear on what's happening. I still know what's happening and that kind of stuff. So I still get briefings on a regular basis, even whenever I'm out of the office, of what's happening. But it is one of those type of jobs, anytime you're running a large organization where you're pretty much on call all the time, And so, my kids asked me one time, their mother works in public service, and they said, we hear mom talk about retirement all the time. We don't ever hear you talk about retirement. And I said, well, we have two different lives, and I love what I do, and I can continue doing this as long as I have my mind, right? And the type of public service she's in not only requires her to have her mind, but the physical aspect of it as well, and that kind of thing. And I said, but there's benefits to both. I said, when your mother takes a vacation, she's off work. She doesn't have to answer phone calls and that kind of stuff. But she has to ask, to be able to take those vacations. I don't have to ask, but I still have to be able to work, right? So, we can go travel whenever we want to, but I'm still on. I still have to be able to work. I still have to be able to answer phone calls and those kinds of things. So, that's really kind of what it's like to run a growing organization. What I would say is mid-size or, knocking on the door of being a larger organization. It's about being able to wear a lot of different hats. Again, it's a lot of phone calls, a lot of monotonous details. A lot of things that are not necessarily interesting. There's times that people will, bring things to you that you think, what in the world is this about? Like, why is this important? And that kind of stuff. But you have to be able to listen to people. You have to be able to be compassionate. You have to be able to drive a vision, right, for where you want things to go. You have to be able to communicate that vision to people, and you have to be able to build a culture and stick to that culture. And you have to make sure that you have good processes. So again, like I said, I typically get up, start my day, have a cup of coffee, a little bit of quiet time. I don't turn on TV or anything like that. I do typically read through what's happening in the world just so I have a kind of general idea of what to expect from the stock market for the day. And then I go into my meetings. And I'm usually in meetings from starting about 9 to 10 in the morning until about 5:30, 6 o'clock most evenings, sometimes even later. There's times that I'll be working until 9 or 10, depending on what it is. I try to break up my day so that I have personal time. So again, I've told you guys about time blocking. I time block my schedule so that I have time that I can dedicate to just myself, just spending time in my own head, working out, whatever it is that I want to do at that point in time, I can go do that thing. And then, I try to make sure that I turn off or put my phone away for dinner when I'm spending time with my family at dinner time. That way it's a time I can focus on them and give to them. And then, I'm a little bit of a night owl. I'm not a morning person, so I'm not somebody who gets up at 5 a.m. I see all these videos on join the 5 a.m. club. I don't think it matters, quite frankly, what time you get up. What matters is how you spend your time while you're up. And so, I'll tend to stay up. I like reading. I like watching things that I can learn from. Everybody around me says I'm full of all kinds of useless, trivial knowledge on stuff because I like watching a lot of videos on educational stuff. I don't watch a lot of TV shows. I don't get wrapped up in TV shows. I do like to watch movies and that kind of stuff. So, but that's my typical day, get up, start my day with some quiet time, go straight into meetings pretty much nonstop throughout the day. Other times I'm doing things like this. I get to shoot these videos. You saw my interns in the previous videos. So I'm coaching, I'm teaching, and working through all those different aspects. Working through all those, different things. And then try to spend some time with my family in the evenings. That's not interrupted, and then I typically will work, even more into the evening. If not, I'm trying to learn something. I take a lot of classes. There's a lot of the Ivy League schools have come out with these executive courses, so I try to do a course each year on something, that interests me. And so I've taken courses from MIT. I've taken courses from Columbia University, but main thing is I like studying business and I like trying to figure out ways to make what I have grow. So, but there you go. So that's the day. Thought I'd share that with you. Nothing earth-shattering or anything like that, but kind of some food for you to think through as you look at life, as you think about building out something. If that's your goal, if that's your ambition, it's good insight. It's not insight that I ever had to this when I first started it. So, anyway, as I've always said. And buck the status quo in order to grow. And until next time, guys, take care and we'll talk to you soon.